creating curiosity by asking better questions. This is Shed Talk. Saul Zia, what do you really know about hospitality? Saul, thank you very much for being on Shed Talk. Now, I got to get a little bit deeper in here. I don't even know what the title that you do.
So I'm the executive director of the Calgary Hotel Association, but as I walk the streets and talk, I'm the vice president of fun.
I just about was thinking about fun. So prostitution is in your game plan. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely not.
No.
But when I'm the voice of hotels across the city in that industry, I mean, what a more fantastic place to be at any given time in your life than in a hotel or in a resort. Of course, we all have dark moments in life. Sometimes you're in a hotel because you're visiting a loved one who may be sick. But 99% of the time, you're in that hotel to have a good time. Having good sleep is having a good time as well. But those are bastions of fun and livelihood and liveliness. And I can't think of anyone who doesn't think time in a hotel is some of the best time they've ever spent.
So let's ask ourselves a better question and dig down deeper into that hotel. As it's a place to have a good time, feel good that you want to be in that place. How does the hotel industry compare with Airbnbs?
Well, think about the anonymity. I kind of think of those. I don't know if you remember those national car rental ads. I can't remember the actor. His name will come to me at some point, but I know he played the Tick on TV, and he espoused the national mantra was the anonymity. I arrive from the airport, grab my keys and leave. I don't have to talk to anybody. Don't have to do anything. And if that's what you want when you're on vacation or visiting friends and relatives or going for business, if you want that anonymity of being texted a code to get your keys and go to your room and do whatever you do that you would do in a hotel room, do in an Airbnb, that's great. But if you want your experience to be walking in and feeling welcome and experiencing the neatness and the awe of an amazing lobby or the people you see, that ability to, if you want to interact and you want to do whatever you're doing but have those aspects of social nuance and elegance there, there's nothing quite like that smile when you're walking up to the front desk and, sir, madam, whatever they call you, how may I help you? Are you checking in? Like that's a moment for most people. That's a moment of,
Yeah.
I'm here to check in.
And it actually sounds that soothing because it is one of those, here we are, just to relax, take my stress away. And then fast forward to here we are, and I'm going to butt into that, like the Kelowna area, like in hospitality, that they've got rid of Airbnbs, short-term rentals downtown of Kelowna. And then how does that help out hotels right off the bat? Does it not help them out with vacancies? Obviously, they can raise their rates. They can do that now that there's no Airbnb in Kelowna. I'm using that as an example just because I have a place there. And then look at that, they're not allowed to do short-term rentals. Is there a big difference with hotel chains and stuff like that doing this?
And I'm going to butt in to a little bit of, thinking around. I use that term check-in, but if I see you on the street, Kevin, and I haven't seen you in ages, and I'm like, hey, buddy, I'm just checking in. Think about the words we use, right? So the notion check-in is, these are words of comfort. And we use that term to see how a friend or a loved one is doing. And we also use that term when you're walking into a hotel and you want to have a great experience. Now, the whole notion of short-term rental versus hotel, I want to separate that. I think when you look at a province like British Columbia and why they had to do something with short-term rentals and Airbnb, I think that was driven around housing and affordable housing and availability. Because you have, and it's not someone like you. I'm not here to judge you. I might judge you later,
Sure.
But I won't judge you on this topic. When you have folks who are operating 30, 40 units, and I'm going to give the example of here because Kelowna is more of a year-round resort. But what you have happening in Calgary is you'll have some groups. It's a commercial enterprise. They have 30 or 40 units in the city. Maybe they've operated them as Airbnbs for a few years. They realize the economics are, hey, I'm not going to make any money and I'm just going to have a hassle. And I don't like the type of guests, tenants, whatever you want to call them, who are likely to come into my Airbnb or my short-term rental from November to April. I can't charge a comparable rate to a hotel. There's not a lot of demand. Hey, you know what? I'm just going to keep that closed. I'm going to operate it profitably from May to October because I can make way more money operating from May to October. Now what you have is 30 to 40 units that sit empty. Family from new arrivals from any country in the world coming in. That availability of housing, that's where I worry. It's like we're actually taking inventory where many people could stay year round. You could lease and rent it, but it's not worth it to the commercial operator to run it. So that talk about vacancy, that inventory just disappears, whether it's a few thousand rooms. Now, I think that was part of it in markets like Kelowna.
Right.
Almost year round, but really humming in the summer. And I think that those councils and those politicians probably looked and said, we have thousands of units of space. We have workers coming in to build everything we're building in Kelowna. We're building a brand new hotel at the Kelowna airport, that we're doing so much. And we need places for people to live because they're doing a lot of that stuff in the wintertime. So the economics of operating, 30 to 40 units, which is like operating a small hotel. But when you do, a hotel doesn't close because, hey, I don't feel like opening from November to April. They operate year round, whether they have 20% occupied or 30% occupied. They tailor their staff and move around that. But, when you have the luxury of locking the door and walking away, you're taking away housing from someone who might be able to stay there for a few months. So I don't know if that answered your question, but I think it's kind of apples and oranges.
And that
between
totally
the two markets.
And that does totally answer the question, because when we look at it, it's the things that you don't know. And it's kind of like I needed to ask that question right away because I get to hear about Airbnb, we have this, the short-term rentals versus this in the housing crisis and where it is. And that, yes, Kelowna and BC's over here. And then we're looking at Calgary, and it's not necessarily asking the same thing, but now we have these great, big, huge convention center. And I was just there the other day, and it's absolutely beautiful. And we're short on hotels. What does that mean?
It becomes, first of all, love to see you there. The new BMO Center is an amazing convention center. It's not just the second largest convention center in the West. It is the most beautiful convention center in North America. Right? It is a beautiful facility, really nicely done. That the technology, the aesthetics are world class. We have a world class gathering place for the world right here in our city. Now, when you have those events, people want to stay close by. If you're attending a convention in Calgary in the month of February, you might not want to walk all the way from downtown to get down to the convention center. So given time, major convention centers always need hotels attached. It's just the way of the world. But in our defense, very few convention centers open with a hotel on day one. Now, sometimes in the case of, say, a Calgary, you had a hotel already built and then you built the convention center next to it. You had some things that came together. But Calgary Stampede, the Lancet Stampede, that's not a place where people live temporarily. The 10 days of Stampede plus other events and activations go on. It'll take a bit of time to get a development going. It might even be mixed use. There might be residential and hotel. Now imagine being the person living at Stampede. You're either in it to win it for those 10 days or you're leaving town. Because you are in the heart of everything that makes this city great and world class. Like that's our embodiment of world class city is Stampede. Imagine living there.
Oh my gosh. And how many people actually, that's it, we're moving out of town for that Stampede to do that, versus some people would actually get, and I know some buddies that they live in the south end of Calgary, and they would actually get an apartment downtown so that they can experience, because if they're drinking, they would say, oh, we'll just stay downtown for the whole 10 days. So that would be their whole experience, which is like going into a whole new city because now they have their place to stay is downtown. So
So many people do that right now. It's tough to get a hotel room now, but I think the Thursday night, the Thursday and the second weekend, there's some availability. But a lot of people will, if they can get a room, will stay downtown one of those nights just to have that. Like, I'm going to walk out my door. I'm going to go to Stampede. I'm going to make my way back. And I mean, there would be some novelty staying in a hotel or living in a condo at Stampede. Now, would it go from novelty to a pain some years? Probably. You can't do it every year. But the aesthetics of living at Stampede, that's pretty novel and that's pretty new.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in the hospitality industry, and you fully engulf it, what has been one of the greatest challenges that you found with the hospitality industry in Calgary?
Well, we can certainly talk about COVID, but I won't jump on that unless you bring it back to us. But I think workers, right? So we've had years of where travel and tourism is considered a summer sport. It's a job that someone does between semesters or years at college and university, coming out of high school, maybe for a gap year. It is a career. So the travel and tourism has lost a bit of its luster as a career. We need to bring that back. So I would say, what worries a lot of folks is how do we keep a workforce that's sustained, continuous, builds tenure, moves around like a true career, 40-year tourism professional. Very common when I started working in the category. There's there's a lot more reluctance to considering working at a hotel or working at an event center as a career. We've got to turn that around.
But why is that?
I think it's just being outcompeted by other categories, and I would blame a little bit. Sorry to whoever's out there on the education system that doesn't give. It's the same issue for trades where the education system really favors certain types of academics and looking at technology, and there's nothing wrong with that. We know there's a lot of careers and jobs in technology, but I believe some of the approach in academia has been to the expense of trades. We need to build homes. We need to work at hotels and event centers and airlines and all those. And I think the way academia is structured has moved a little bit away from giving those careers the value they used to.
Interesting.
For going to a prestigious, tourism school like Guelph used to be back in the day.
Interesting. Because business is lining up. So I'm in the construction industry, and installers. When people were installers back in the day, people would say, "Oh no, go to school, be a lawyer, go into the tech, and then do that," versus don't go into the trade schools. Well, fast forward today, trade school is one of the best places to be. It pays
Absolutely.
this. We need more trades. It's kind of like that cycle that you got to get in to get out, in and out. Restaurant and bar industry. How often? Well, hospitality. And from my experiences watching waiters and waitresses and that are working in that industry and don't realize a lot of these guys can make great money. Like it's $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 in their tips, and then they say, "Oh, it's not a career." That is a great career. And in that, having the mindset that, no, this is my career, this is where I want to go, versus, oh no, it's just a summer job, or this is just a summer gig. It's trying to, as we talked earlier before we were on the thing, you had to control the narrative.
Yeah, the narrative, yeah, which is a fancy way of saying I'm not really quite sure what I'm talking about. And when it comes to careers, whether it's culinary, preparing food, I mean, there was a time. I mean, you look at the history of, and I'm gonna just make it up now, but you look at French cuisine, right? The whole Red Seal chef, the whole notion of moving into that category, that was aspirational. So there's a word that still makes sense. You would aspire to that. It's like, oh my gosh, mom and dad have a dream of being a chef, like the famous chefs here in Paris. And that was a noble, highly aspirational thing to do or consider as a career. It's lost its luster a little bit. So in order for youth or anyone, maybe someone new coming to the country wants to make a change, I'm going to start a brand new career, aspiration is an important thing, right? Aspiration and ambition, they're close by. Those are good words. You need to aspire to something, and then you need the ambition to do it. And those are things we need to bring back to the category. Now, Will it happen on its own? No. Will it happen if leaders talk about it? Politicians, elected officials say, "Wow, what a great place to work." Eventually, that wears on the person, and they consider those things, and it becomes part of the culture. I think that's another word you're using, is the culture of what's a good career and what's not, and those cultural attributes will change over time if we keep our eye on it.
That's interesting because we were just talking right there, and how many of the 5 words we just used right there were all buzzwords, okay? And do people really truly understand what meaning of each one of those words represent? Versus when we were talking earlier about someone that's being able to has a great vocabulary. What were we talking? What was the word we were talking before?
Literally.
Literally.
I read an article that if you use the word literally a lot, you probably need to beef up your vocabulary.
So literally, how does that work?
Well, I mean, we take buzzwords, right? Okay, and I am no expert in the English language, and I think the last time I took an English class would have been grade 11. I think that was the last time it was required. Maybe
Well, that wasn't
grade
that long
12.
ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
40 years ago.
Yeah.
But you can use synonyms. So I use the term aspiration. I don't have to say that. I could say goal.
Right.
Kid needs a goal. Ambition. Kid needs drive. But to use the same words over and over again, and we don't have to get into that, but you can use the thinking means I'm going to cultivate the conversation in a way that makes it interesting and not overused, and not just going on catchphrases and big words that are circulating a lot and overused phrases. Still a good word, variety.
So
right? Spice is life.
Spice is life. Now variety. Now I'm gonna go back because I'm actually gonna get to a point here, because the point that I'm trying to get at is that we're trying to get more people into the hospitality industry. Okay, pivot. Okay, we want them more. The biggest buzzwords ever in life was pivoting because of COVID. Here's where we're at, to make people stay in this industry, to love, live, and play where they're going to, because they're all sentences of buzzwords that we're going to throw into here, and to truly figure out how do we truly get these people to want to create another one, culture, and what is culture in the hospitality industry. Okay, so let's break that down into about culture in the hospitality industry. What is culture in the hospitality industry? Now we're back into the buzzwords thing. Okay?
Yeah, but I think it's easy in a way, right? What makes you happy, right? So if a career in hospitality was defined by the joy of travel. Gosh, I love to travel, so I want to be in the industry. I love people, right? These are people industries. Talk about the Airbnb versus hotels. If you can operate an Airbnb, you can operate independent of people. When you operate a hotel, you're in the people industry. And pandemic and work from home, and you don't work from home when you work at a hotel. Like, those are people industries. You are facing people all the time. You need to have, but joy of travel used to be the driver of, instead of ambition, like, oh, I'd love to travel, and wow, what a great career, because I can go all over the world and do what I love. And you know what? I also love people. And I do love making money. There's no point in hating making money. These are careers. You need an income. But those are attributes that people share. Now, not everyone loves people. Great. Not everyone loves to travel. Great. But if you have and like those things and you get joy out of them, hospitality is a great career.
And how many people actually in the hospitality actually understand and that you can travel? Like, we assume, okay, I'm sitting here having this conversation, and I think I know a little bit about hospitality, but I don't know anything about hospitality. And the same thing going, well, what do you mean by travel? Like, okay, we have a labor shortage, but yet at the same time we're saying, but you can travel. So does that mean I want guys from Europe to come on here only during the holidays? So it's a traveling thing. So it's a traveling employment for everybody?
It could be, right? So let's take working in hotels. And I can talk about convention centers and banquets. But if you get a job at a job at a global hotel, for instance, you can apply for jobs, and they do really good work in arranging visas and getting folks placed. You can move all over the world. You can apply for those jobs. And what's amazing about how the human resources groups or people groups work for hotels, they are pretty smart at getting the paperwork done to get you out there. Right? That's they're investing in buildings all over the world, whether it's the ownership groups of the hotel. So the ability to travel is there. You're not stuck in the same place you've been working for 40 years. If you want to be, that's great, but you can apply all over the world. And what's undervalued is how great those organizations are at getting people to the places where they want to work.
I had no idea that was even possible.
Oh, all it takes is a bit of cooperation with governments, the ability to help employees who want to travel to different destinations. Now, you might have to consider joining a management trainee program. Great, not a bad idea, right? Coming out with management skills, whether you want to be a manager or not, doesn't hurt the person, right? Being able to manage anything is a good thing. Not being able to manage things typically is a bad thing.
So when you're looking at this, and then we just we're talking about labor shortage, and then all of a sudden the things you know that you don't know, that there's actually a system in play that allows you to travel, that they'll set up, do they get your visa as well?
They would have to make arrangements, right? So let's take a major global hotel company. They would probably have a group that would be taking care of visas. It could be a matter of what's the type of visa needed for that. Is it a 1 year? Is it a multi-year? Do we have a trade agreement between this country and that country to move people back and forth? What are the qualifications required? We have this thing in Canada called labor market impact assessments, where when you're bringing people in from overseas in a qualified role, you have to demonstrate their credentials and all, but it's not up to the person to do it. You have an organization that helps you. Sure, you could do it on your own, and that'd be a lot of work. But when an organization is there to help and facilitate you getting to where you want to be and growing as a person and learning, but it starts with that joy of travel and that joy of people. If you want to learn going overseas, you've got to like being with people.
But that works both ways for to actually going overseas to say Europe or whatever, but also Europe coming over here.
Absolutely.
And doing the exact same thing. It's kind of like, now again, I'm talking because I don't know, and I'm looking at this going, so here's a labor issue, okay, a concern. Are they actually pushing this more and more to get more people to be able to travel like that? Like I hadn't heard that before. I knew kids would go through school and they'd have to do that. But actually, there's organizations that would actually put you together and say, hey, we'll get you at this hotel, this ski resort, or wherever that would be. And I said ski because I don't know, to get them in there. So there's a possibility. There's actually places that actually do this.
Well, it's another overused term. So we've retrofit the term mobile workforce to fit, I can work from home. Mobile workforce used to mean, I do my tenure 3 years in India. Now I'm going to Abu Dhabi, and hey, now I'm going to Cincinnati. The whole definition of mobile workforce used to be the ability and the ease of qualified people in a specific job, industry, or category going to where the demand was, where they were told to go, or where they wanted to go.
Interesting, and now it opens that whole door to whatever we can make happen here.
Yeah, but now we have a highly mobile workforce. Oh, does that mean they work from home? No, but that's where everyone goes. Hybrid, and it's like, well, no, that's not. Roll back 20 years, maybe pre 9/11, whenever the series of bad things have started, a mobile workforce meant work where you want, in some cases when you want, or when you're needed.
So do you see the narrative, back to our new words, the narrative changing?
I'm not going to call it the N-word. We're not going to go down any of those paths at all.
Okay, done.
They go back to narrative.
Yeah, okay, I got to think. Okay, I got to make sure I'm on the right track here. Is that, do you see Calgary changing a lot in the coming next 5 to 10 years?
I think Calgary's always changing. Mm-hmm. I feel, though, I get excited when I see the new infrastructure, when I see the plans, when you see cranes going up and you see things being developed. You can let your imagination run. Like I watch, you're at the new convention center and I watch what they're doing with opening up 17th Avenue and what they did to might be mundane, but leveling the C train line and taking the elevated out and sort of having a level crosswalk from 17th Avenue to the Stampede grounds. They have a new name for 17th Avenue when it comes into Stampede. But my imagination runs wild when I think about that entertainment corridor. Now 17th comes all the way into Stampede ground. That's cool. Like, because we always think of it sort of ending somewhere around McLeod Trail and becomes kind of nowheresville for anybody. But imagine that awesome 17th Avenue Entertainment District flowing all the way into the Stampede grounds. What's the other term we hear a lot? Making this not diverse. What's the term? Vibrant.
Oh,
there's
my
another
gosh.
term. Vibrant. Well,
What is vibrant?
you can't declare you're vibrant. You got to be vibrant, but you also have to do the things that help activity and being able to walk like that. Walking from Trolley 5 right onto the Stampede grounds. Pick a spot. That's cool, right? Because we also have a tradition in the city of really compartmentalizing. We got the belt line. You don't cross the railway tracks. You've got people who have never crossing the C train line. We have a lot of compartmentalization. We got to free up the streets and free up the people to just move around as they feel like. Forget about overused terms like vibrancy. That movement of people and that ability to go wherever you want and have a good time, that's vibrancy and fun and excitement and all the things that we need to get to. And I think we're already there, and I think we're doing the right things to get there fast.
And so you keep going back to the we. Who's the we? So Calgary Economic Trade and Development, or is it the city of Calgary?
Wow. I don't button things. I don't pigeonhole or whatever overused term you want to use there. I think it's all of us.
Yeah.
We're all a part of the city. And when I heard a woman speak before Premier Smith's luncheon. She talked about her story coming to Alberta in 2006 and their ideas. And I could tell listening to her that she came here and she was already part of the we. It's like, I am we. I've just arrived in 06, but I'm here. And, who's part of the we? Everyone who raises their hand and says, I'm going to be part of making the city great.
And that's a great statement as the we, because when you look back, and I'm in the southeast quadrant of the city, and when you talk about the we, when you go downtown, it's a whole different feeling. Yet, take the southeast, northeast, northwest, whatever, we seem to isolate ourselves in our quadrants. But when we talk about the we, when we're downtown, all of a sudden, the mayor or downtown's doing this. They're trying to make it, the buzzword, vibrant. Mm-hmm. But when it actually comes down to saying it is the we. It's the guys in the southeast, living in the southeast and going downtown and actually putting our input in, listening to economic trade and development, because I've had a couple people on, and there's things I had no idea that we were doing or even we were all thinking about doing, and putting our foot forward and how to contribute as citizens of Calgary. And say, listen, we need to grow this together and stand united first, like downtown, to say, okay, let's not quadrant it off. Let's open it up. And then you guys in the hospitality, the we's, in the hospitality industry, open that all up. And economic trade and development is actually educating us about the we, guys. This is a city of us, a city of we, to make it great together so that we can pull more hotels, more people, more traffic, and more individuals.
I'm going to grab a phrase, making it great, making things great, and the notion of we. And then I hear things, well, that's great. We're doing all this stuff for tourists. And I hold on to a belief. I can have a belief. I don't have to prove it in fact. I don't have to write a book or get a professor to. I have a belief that when we do things that are great for our visitors, they're great for our citizens. So things that are interesting for people coming and that we use to attract people, I think that benefits every Calgarian. Because anything that we do that's great benefits everybody. And it's like, well, we're doing all this for tourists. It's like, well, yeah, but you can be part of it. There's no barriers. There's no wall up saying, oh, this is only, show us your driver's license. That, you're really, like, everything that we do that's great benefits everybody. And I hate those notions of who we're doing things for. We're kind of doing all this for everybody. And whether it's Calgary Economic Development, spearheading it, or someone's got to drive the bus. We can't just all get on the bus and hope it's going to go somewhere. Someone's got to drive the bus at any given time. Maybe it's me, maybe it's you, maybe it's someone at economic development, maybe it's someone in the mayor's office, maybe it's someone in a fire hall, maybe it's someone at a police station. We can open the door for you to pick on me on that one. But sometimes we all take turns being the driver and being the passenger. And when we consider that and who's in the driver's seat, sometimes it's me, sometimes it's you. That is the we. And we don't do things in the city for one person. They end up being done for everybody.
That is awesome. Yeah. That is great. You know what? So thank you very much for being on Shed Talk. The things you know that you didn't know, creating a little bit of curiosity here. And thank you very much for being on.
You're welcome. It gives me a lot of energy to do this kind of stuff, Kevin.
Now you know. Shed Talk.